if you say you're from Chicago or somebody sees, even my daughter when she went to Boulder didn't know a soul. And it was like the second or third day. She's like, "Hey, when do I meet friends?" I said, "Wear a Chicago shirt or a Cubs hat."
Wear a Cubs hat.
Yeah.
All of a sudden.
She goes, 4 people.
Hello and welcome to Chiaspora. My name is Marc Morgan. This is a show where we interview those who left Chicago, but Chicago never left them. Today we have an amazing guest. You'll know him from The Middle. You'll know him from Seinfeld. You'll know him from Friends. Marvin was a kid's show, I believe, as well. This is Pat Finn. Welcome, dude.
Thanks. Oh, I'm happy to be here.
You grew up in Evanston, right?
I did, yeah.
So did you go to ETHS and all that?
Well, I was born in Evanston, and so technically I'm like, it was St. Francis Hospital.
Yeah.
So,
dude.
So I think it's like 6 blocks from city proper. So
Gotcha.
Officially, born in Evanston and then raised in Wilmette. So
Okay.
I went to Loyola
Oh, gotcha.
Academy. Yeah.
I've had lots of friends who've
Oh,
gone to
cool.
Loyola.
Yeah, it was great. It was it was great. I mean, I'm really happy I went, made some lifelong friends.
How old were you when you moved?
Dang. Probably 29 maybe.
Oh, from Chicago to I meant like.
Oh, sorry.
How old were you? So you were in Evanston. You were born in St. Francis or whatever.
Yeah. My folks had a house, and when I was born, they moved to Wilmette. So
Okay,
pretty much
gotcha.
my whole
So it was
life.
young. Yeah. Gotcha. Because I grew up in Rogers Park, which is literally across the street
Yeah.
from where I was to Evanston.
Very cool.
So you went into Loyola. Did you start doing theater and stuff early?
No, I'm kind of different than. It's always funny, and you're always interviewing actors and producers and stuff. And my favorite line, Chris Mars said that you can ask 10 different actors how they got there, and you'll get 11 different answers.
Right,
I just
right.
think it's a great line because it's so true.
Right.
So to answer your point, no, I got to Loyola and was too nervous to be in any production whatsoever, and then kind of friends of mine, we all kind of dared each other and got in the chorus of a play.
Off of a dare. Like you guys egg each other on. Like let's give it a shot.
It was cool. Joel Murray, who was from the same parish, he was like the lead in the play. He was a senior when I was a freshman, so he was like, "Oh my god!"
That is, in case you don't know, which you've seen him in so many movies. That's
Mad Men and a ton of stuff. He's great.
So you were around the same age as him.
He's 3 years old. He's my brother Kevin's age.
Got it.
So he's 3 years older. But and then at Loyola, we did one play. It was Lil Abner. And I did it because I had a crush on the lead girl.
Of course.
And then it turns out, it's good and bad. It turns out that the lead, she was dating somebody. So I was just in the chorus, and there's no way to. And he was the co-star.
Oh, of course. So there's no way into that one.
Completely not. They were both a year ahead of me. But the cool thing was, his nickname was Keg Beer, and he could get a quarter barrel at any moment in like a half hour.
That was like his special power.
Yeah, that was his thing. So it was like, wow, it's special power. Yeah.
It's like keg beer.
Keg beer. So you get a quarter barrel of Stroh's.
So needless to say, you actually didn't mind the guy being around, or was it like?
No, I used the perk that I received.
There you go.
If they're going to be in love, then I guess I'm next best thing would be getting a quarter barrel out of the deal. But yeah, so I did that, and I had one line, and it was a big, huge scene. And all these things happened, and people tumbling, and people running and singing and dancing, and all this stuff. And I had one line, and it was. I still remember it. It was, "Hey, something fell off the statue." Never forget. And all of a sudden, boom, boom, all of a sudden. And as soon as something happens, I have to say my line. So I just said, "Hey, this is rehearsal."
Yeah.
"Hey, something fell off the statue." Couldn't have been horrible or that, whatever. Just kind of
So one-liner, yeah.
Look at me, I'm in the show. And we're done. And the director was like, "Fantastic! That's the biggest scene. That went amazing. You guys were great. Spot on the tumblers, the dance, the singing, everything. I mean, I goosebumps. It was great. So, Finn, what's your line?" I was like, "Hey, something fell off the statue." Right. Conroy, that's your line now. You take that. And I was like, "Hey, I'm gonna be an actor someday, man." And that was it. That was the extent of acting in high school. So
wait, hold on. Wait.
Juilliard was in Colin.
So you couldn't hit that one line to make somebody happy, and yet you said, "You know what? I think this is going to be my profession."
Oh, totally. And by the way, Jimmy Conroy, still to this day my best friend, one of them, didn't want it. He's like, "I don't want the line. Let Pat do it." No, you'll do better. "I don't want to say it. I'm not an actor. Pat wants to say it." And the director was like, "No, you say it." So
wow.
that was my extent of acting.
Did you? That's what I'm saying. Like at that moment, I know it's so small of a moment, but you remember that so well.
I do because I kind of here's the thing about acting, which is different. That at least when I was growing up, if you wanted to work construction, I could call my uncle. If you wanted to get into medicine or law.
Very
or something.
familial.
Yeah, there was somebody you could always kind of ask about it. And honestly, I didn't know anybody. Only thing I knew was Second City. And that we would go there in high school for like after proms or just for dances and just to go down there. We jump on the L.
Who were you watching at that time?
I mean,
Do you remember anybody who was there?
I don't entirely. I want to say it was, I should know, but I want to say it was like Belushi and that kind of group. Jimmy, not John.
Yeah.
But I just remember staring at it. And this is an odd example, but maybe like a baseball player, who wants to play baseball sees a game for the first time.
Right.
Like it struck a chord different than it did my friends. They're like, "Oh, it's cool. Hey, let's go." I'm like, "No, let's stay to the end."
Right. Right. You're the one guy
all
who was
this
like,
stuff, and I just stared
waiting for that one line of somebody saying about the head off the statue.
Yeah, exactly. Say that one. But it was something I just would just stare at to learn. I was a sponge to learn as much as I could from it. And that's not probably planted some sort of a seed. And I grew up, listening to Bob Newhart and Carol Burnett and all that stuff. And so I'm sure all those things were a little bit of a...
Had huge influence, I'm sure.
Yeah.
That's awesome, though. So really, before high school, didn't really mess at all with acting?
Not at all. And then even...
Were you like the goof guy in your group?
Yeah, I mean, I'm 5 out of 6 in an Irish Catholic family and an amazingly close, wonderful family. And my dad has a really dry sense of humor. But the dinner table was just, that was the place to...
Yeah, free for all for you to do your thing. You're doing you were doing
the whole idea of the high you got when you got a brother or sister to
pick on, a joke
you
with.
That, or you got milk through the nose.
Oh, yeah, right.
The beauty was, the rule was the person that the milk came out of, he was or she was like, no, that's it, leave the table. Like that was like you're in the penalty box.
Right.
But I caused it, but it's like, well, it was funny. You didn't,
No,
so
that's great. But that's like your first audience. So obviously it's got to be the coolest feeling.
I think it's hard too. I think, especially being on the younger side.
Sure.
But I would see my brothers and sisters, and they'd bring people in and friends, and they were always really funny, and the repartee was so entertaining that I was like, man, if I could have this someday, I thought it would be so cool. I just like the idea of just that kind of comedy, just observational and just friendly and just kind of everybody supporting each other. And probably that's what Second City really is as a whole.
Before even Second City, though, because I love family, by the way, I really do strongly believe has a huge influence. Did anybody in your family go, this kid's goof, he's good? Or was it just kind of like you felt that like you can get a rise out of people, and this is something that maybe in the back, but you kind of knew this is something you're going to do?
Yeah, it was my brother, the next brother up, who's 3 years older, was he was dating a super pretty girl, and he was very kind of GQ, and so I was just more kind of the goofy guy, and I kind of found that going to parties and hanging out with friends, it was just a fun outlet or medium.
Sure.
So yeah, I think they didn't. Nobody really felt anybody was more funny than the other, but I think there was. I think once I got to probably high school and beyond, then it was almost I was in. Like my jokes weren't like silly.
Right. You're taking it seriously. This became your thing.
Sure. Yeah.
So Second City. So walk me through it. So you're at Loyola. You graduate Loyola after doing just one play, or you did a few?
Honors.
Oh, yeah, give the man credit. No, take it. You should take it.
No, I'm teasing. I'm completely making that up because nobody can look that up.
You just start making things up.
Hey, what that thing do?
Exactly.
No, I graduate Loyola, and it's funny. My kids are at the age now where they're going to colleges, and I told them the story because it's kind of whatever. It's a story that it's true, and it's something that happened to me, and it was that my mom's from the East Coast, and everybody, my dad encouraged us all to go to a Jesuit university. That was a big deal. He went to Loyola and the Loyola University, and then we had to pay for it ourselves. But we were all Teamsters and worked in factories, so that helped us financially, like pay for it. But so we went to, I applied to Fairfield. I'm like, I'm going to go there. We went out and interviewed at Providence. Then I went to Fairfield. It's too much snow. They shut the school down. So I never got an interview. But I'm like, no big deal. And they knew I really wanted to go there.
Sure.
So I blew off a class, took my application into the chapel at Loyola, and sat there for an hour and prayed. I'm like, never wanted anything. Never asked for a puppy. Never asked for better grades.
This was your moment.
Tall or anything. Yeah, this was it.
Tall? You are tall.
Well, yeah, but at the time. But that was it. And I sent it in. I remember like putting it in the mailbox like, is this kind of unfair to some guy who's not going to get in because God help me going to school. Like,
I prayed for this one.
yes,
That guy just thought he was getting in.
Right. It was Catholic guilt instantly. Just like, oh, is that uncool to use God?
Was that weird to use God as a reference in the middle of your application?
The Lord and Savior.
Yeah, I guess he's it.
I just say he's a good friend. I talk to him every night. But he's a great listener. But so I did it and I sent it in. And then all of a sudden I got the response. And it was a very matter of fact no. And I was like, this makes no sense.
You became an atheist in an hour.
I did. There is no God.
Oh.
And but I was just crestfallen. I was like, this makes no sense, man. This is all I want. And the reason I bring that up, especially to my kids, is that I kind of begrudgingly went to Marquette. Just because
it's a good school, though.
Great school. But it was my second choice. I was like, it wasn't this school.
Yeah.
And so I went. And the wild thing about it is that my brother was there. So he and I became even closer.
That's good.
And not that we weren't that close, but
is it the one right above
3
you?
years older, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the one right above me. And then the amazing thing is I met my wife who at 18, and we're coming up on 30 years being married, which is wild.
Wow.
And Chris Farley. So all of that happened at a school I didn't think I was supposed to go to. So it's just, you never really know. But Marquette's where I started to get a little bit more into theater, sort of.
That's crazy. And I know there was a documentary about Chris
Yeah.
Farley, and you were in that.
Yeah.
So you met him at Marquette.
Yeah, Chris was a year older than me. He was a sophomore. So we met, I played rugby for 4 years, as did he. So we met at rugby practice and kind of became buddies.
Did you guys know at that time that, like, hey, we're going to go back to Second City. We're going to go kill it?
Chris really had an incredible passion for it. And we just kind of had a kindred spirit with we listened to National Lampoon albums, and we listened to, just like we'd watch old SNLs. We just, any kind of thing we could gravitate towards to learn from or get ideas from, that we were thick as thieves in that sense. And a guy named Jim Murphy as well. But Chris got into a couple of plays, and this is probably his senior year maybe. And he's like, you have to be in theater. So I'm like, fine, I'm going to do it. I'm going to go into theater.
Chris Farley is the guy who encouraged you to do it.
Yes. So
isn't that cool?
It's great.
You went from one-liner to Chris Farley telling you, hey,
yes. Well, we were really good friends.
It's awesome.
No, it's great, awesome. But and again, things with Chris never sometimes go as
smoothly.
Yeah, or as to plan. And in this case, Chris introduced me to the head of the theater. She was super sweet. This is Pat, my buddy. He's going to be in the plays, blah, blah, blah. The play was Curse of the Starving Class. Chris played a cop, small role, and then just kind of felt a lot of the rugby team came to that show that night and felt that maybe he should come on just unannounced in the middle of a scene, as he did. And he brought a goat with him.
Of course he did.
Huge laugh. Hilarious. Ruined the play, but really funny. And then just by relation to Chris, I was banned from the theater. So that was my experience in theater.
Wow.
Yeah. So
man, you really had a tough time getting in.
There was a good part of me that was like, sweet, I don't want to do this. I can't get in front of people. That's crazy. So then Chris and I started to write a little bit. And then the first stage thing we did was I'll still remember it. It was a midnight show at a open mic night at a small dive bar in Milwaukee across the street from a factory. So it was the people on the night shifts on their lunch break. So it was just people just drinking Pabst and having a hot dog. And we went up and did comedy. It was called Wimpy's Hunt Club. I don't think it's still there. And I remember the first thing we did was Chris goes, we should just make stuff up and just talk about topical stuff and make it funny. And so if we're in trouble, a last resort, I'll be skipper and I'll take off my hat and you're Gilligan and I'll hit you. And I'll be like, oh, Gilligan.
You even embody him right now, like that nervous thing where it's like, well, people always see him super loud, whatever.
Yeah.
But from my understanding, from everybody I've ever heard speak about him, it's like he still had that a little bit of self-consciousness within.
Yeah, he was like a panda.
He's a big bear.
Speak.
Yeah,
exactly. He was like a golden retriever, just somebody who's the sweetest. He was just you couldn't. But so we went up and probably 9 seconds into it, he's just like. Oh, Gilligan. And I was like, oh, geez, we've cut to the, our panic button has already been. But that was kind of it. And then we did 2 more. And then people wanted to come see us, so we didn't do it. And then we did a variety show. And we were blowing that off, and then this woman called and was like, "You guys have to come down here. People are here waiting for you. You have to do something."
This is still Milwaukee.
Yeah. So we did a variety show, and we just did like a spoof on the dating game. So, and we improvised almost all of it. It went really well, and Chris was like, "This is what we're supposed to do."
That's awesome.
So yeah, it was really cool. And then he's a year older, so he went to Madison to work for his dad, which is basically Tommy Boy. And then when I graduated, the two of us went to Chicago.
Gotcha.
So yeah,
together though.
Yeah, he wanted to wait for me.
That was a conscious decision.
Yeah, that was the whole thing. We felt more comfortable together.
So when you guys moved, did you guys live together?
So then I lived at my folks' house in Wilmette for the first almost year. And then he lived with buddies across the street from Kincaid's on Armitage.
Okay.
That's 7-Eleven at Armitage. And
cool.
So then I moved in with Jimmy Carrane and Brian McCann, who was a writer for SNL and Jimmy's a teacher back in Chicago. It was great. So yeah, so everybody kind of hung out together.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
And you started taking classes. You realized that bug is definitely, you made the right decision, in other words.
Yeah, I mean, I was selling group health insurance and to factories.
It's like, that's what I'm saying. It's like, you had to, was that like because you were saying you were doing factory stuff even before family related?
No.
How did you even?
There was one of the families, a good friend of ours, the Joyce family from Faith Hope Parish, which was in Winnetka next to Wilmette. And we were St. Joe's. And their dad owned a bottling plant in Skokie. And they needed workers in the summer because it was so crowded. So we started off in the factory. And then after I think if you were 18, then you could work on a truck. So we worked on the assembly line, putting all the bottles and stuff on. And then when we got to 18, you could work on a truck and you were a helper. So you could just go, this Dominic's needs 200 cases of.
R.I.P. on that. Dominic's doesn't exist anymore, unfortunately.
Go to the Jules.
Isn't that crazy though?
I know.
It's like if you. I don't know how often you go back, but once in a while you go back and you're like, that's not there anymore.
I know.
I'm like, what the hell happened?
It is. It's hard.
This was my neighborhood.
Yes, exactly. Like, how did a whole grocery chain go under?
That's so crazy.
Yeah. So that was. So we lived there in the city and took classes at Improv Olympic, and which was an amazing thing because the people at the time. I was, Joel Murray and Pasquazi were kind of involved with Tim Meadows and Mike Myers. And then you had the Keckner and Pete Gardner and, then all of a sudden the Ian Gomez and James Grace and Farles and I and Leo Ford and just a really cool group. And then all of a sudden you had the Adam McKay and Brian Stack, Brian McCann, Tina Fey, Amy Poehler, like this group that was just.
You've had some during that time. I mean, there was amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had Mitch Rouse was here
Great.
before. Joe Nunez, he was a little after maybe, or maybe around the same time. There's been a number of people who've sat in that seat who've we've talked to about this, and it's just amazing. Like, now we see everybody, freaking on the Oscars and still talk about that. And I love the fact that it started all together.
No, it is. And what's kind of cool is we all kind of kept each other in check. Like, so if you did a thing on stage, you didn't do it again. Like, a bit.
Right.
It was like, hey, you did that, you got to laugh. But, it was kind of you policed everybody in a good way.
It's crazy. I wish they did that more out here, I'll be honest.
I know.
I've gone to the Laugh Factory so many times. Great bits.
Yeah.
Still the same.
I know.
People are still doing it.
Yeah, and it's different. I mean, some people have their kind of go-to stuff. But, personally, I've done improv for so long, even with the group now called Beer Shark Mice.
Didn't you just start? Is yours? Like I feel like I read somewhere that you started your own, or at least some workshop or teaching something.
Oh yeah, well Pete Holney started Beer Shark Mice, and then I ended up because we go back to Marquette, Danny Pudi and Chris Mars and the Farley brothers. We'll go back to Marquette and do like a workshop, and then we'll talk to the theater kids and the students, and then we'll do a show.
That's awesome.
And then all the money that's raised from the show, we're like students don't pay, adults whatever they want to pay, and that goes to the Chris Farley Foundation. Which is really cool. And my favorite thing is we ask, because they don't know how much to pay, and I just say, like, picture what Chris would have spent on alcohol on a Friday night, and then cut it in half. So
that's the way that's the metric. Yes. The beer metric.
Exactly.
That is the funniest thing I've ever heard. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. England has theirs. You have yours. Chris Farley has his. It's good. I like that.
Yeah. So, but anyway, so that went well, and then my oldest daughter went to Boulder. And I kind of approached Boulder and said, hey, improv's a pretty big deal now. It used to be kind of the pirate of the theater world.
Sure.
And
But now it's different.
Now it's
different.
huge.
Yeah,
now you go to
course.
Duke and
it's more. It's it's almost. Some people take improv over just straight up acting classes. They just feel like they're getting.
I think you're going to get more, for sure. But
Right.
so, anyways, I talked to the people, the powers that be, and it didn't. They didn't say this, but they were like, right. So improv, it's like witchcraft, and but so nothing happened.
Clearly, these people haven't got out much.
Right. No, but it went so well at Marquette, and I've done
Sure.
it at UCLA and Pepperdine just to help out, and Indiana, and then as fate would have it, the dean from Marquette was transferred to Boulder.
Oh wow!
Communications.
There you go.
She said, "Can we go out for lunch?" I said, "Sure." And I knew her from when we did shows and benefits,
Sure.
and it was great. She goes, "Will you talk to the advertising class?" Sure. It was Parents' Weekend, so it went really well. And then the next day, they're like, "Hey, we want to have lunch again." I'm like, "It's kind of Parents' Weekend, but okay."
I'll take
So
a
we
free
went-
lunch.
Yeah,
Whatever.
so we went, and they're like, "Yeah, we want to offer you a full-time position here." I was
Oh
like,
wow!
do you want to see any grade that I ever got, like at Marquette? Because it wasn't, I don't know if you'd be, banging the castle to get into.
How is that possible? You live here now.
That was the thing. When my daughter was there.
I see.
And I'm like, that's so flattering, but I can't do it. I appreciate that. And we ended up settling on a 1-credit course, which has been a ridiculous success. And it's really been cool to teach these kids. And selfishly, I get to see my kids and hang out with them and, buy them pizza and stuff like that. So it's kind of fun.
That is so
And
cool.
then somebody approached me and said, hey, will you do this for business? Like as kind of a side thing. And I said, sure. So we created a company called Improbability.
Nice. That's what I
That's
wrote
what you're thinking. So Al Admire, a friend of mine, and I, basically, he's from the business world. So it's my world and the business world and how all the business can learn from the tenets of both, basically.
That's wonderful.
Yeah,
and by the way, I highly recommend to anybody. I don't care if you're in business sales. If you do any type of improv at all, it really teaches just how to deal with problems.
Totally.
And I feel like, there are enough people in the business where they start freaking out. I feel like improv is exactly to teach you not to. It's like, this happens, move on.
Well, it's the idea that you can follow the fear. Mistakes are okay.
Right.
Mistakes are welcome.
Exactly.
And that's
when you play with it.
Yeah, exactly. That's when it's foreign to so many people. But yeah, people have the idea that I need, Marc's retort to what I say to help me.
Right.
It's not all about me. You need the other person.
Right.
So
That's really cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's been great. It's been really well received. We did a event for the CDC for 25 scientists, which was crazy.
They must have been like, wow.
It was. It reminded me. We did a show at Stanford one time, and usually when you do gigs, like in Second City, you're going on the road and you play some college. It's like, we have an emotion, fart. You're like, great, thanks. But we played Stanford, and we're like, we have an emotion, clear as day. Ennui.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, oh my God, dictionary. But I was like, that's great. So similarly, I'm like, if 25 scientists can do improv in 3.5 hours, and at the end we're like, hey, do you guys have any questions? 60-year-old woman raised her hand. I've been doing this for a long time, a lot of these seminars. This is like life-changing. This is the best thing I've ever done. That's so cool. She goes, I have one more question. I go, yeah. And she goes, can we do one more game? I was like, dang, that's great.
That is the most adorable thing in the world.
Yeah, it was really cool.
And it's especially someone who's in their 60s, like she clearly hadn't gotten that experience.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Neat. It was neat. It was also, somebody came up to us at one of the breaks and they're like, she goes, Tim, in the sweater? I was like, yeah. And she's like, yeah, we've been working together for 2 years. We're like kind of 3 cubicles over. I knew his name and that's it. I've never met him. I've never talked to him. She goes, turns out we've both got dogs. They go to the same kennel and our cousins are both, whatever. She's like, we're going for lunch tomorrow.
And this opened the door. Yeah.
Right. Because, improv is just teamwork. It's all
awesome.
A group effort.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Well, congrats on that. I mean,
Thanks.
honestly,
Really
anybody
cool.
who ever starts anything, any entrepreneurial adventure, it's amazing.
Yeah, it's really been a pretty great thing, and I like again, that the end result from it, even with this class, these kids are giddy. They're so excited, yet they're so nervous in the beginning. It's like, I don't know about stand up, or I don't want to be dumb.
Right?
It's like, no, man, I'm holding your hand the whole time.
Yeah, we're in this together. Don't worry about it.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
Yeah.
So I'll step back a minute because what I like to do, at least on this show, is when people want to talk or see these people who left Chicago and made it, I always want to know like what was the thing that really like set it off. So it's cool because you were doing Second City, obviously surrounded by also a bunch of talented people. When did you actually say, all right, it's time to really take this to the next move? Did you talk to your family? You're like, hey, I'm going to LA or New York. How did it happen?
That's a great question. So when Chris and I went to Improv Olympic, did all the classes, did Second City, did all the classes, made it to the top. Then there was auditions for the touring company, which was the driveway into Second City. That's how 95% of the people, if not everybody, gets in that way. And so we auditioned, and Chris got in with Colbert and Rose Abdou, Paul Dinello, just a great group. And they took 6 people with one on the waiting list. So I was on basically I had it, but somebody had to leave the post office.
Why are you always the last guy in? This is ridiculous. Do you not see this trend? Did you not see
don't go to war with me.
I was going to say, did you not go back to the God thing and just like,
I should have.
Why?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Right. So for a year, nobody moved. And so I never got in the touring company. So I was like, okay. So I was still doing stuff. Meanwhile, Chris was now touring. And then probably the 3rd year, I ran into Joyce, and I'm like, I've auditioned for 3 years. Joyce Sloan, who's like the matriarch of That Amazing Place, and she's like, I know you're good enough to be on stage, and I was like, oh, thanks.
Wait, was that a compliment?
Yeah, I was kind of like, hey, look who's good.
You're
enough.
subpar, but
Exactly. If there's an accident. So, anyways, I said I'm doing a show tonight. I said, why don't you come on by?
Shit, all right.
And I did an improv show with the group I was with, and Tom Giannis came by with her. And the next day I went to Second City, and she goes, we want to hire you. The crazy thing is, of all the people that Joyce, you know Joyce Sloan.
Mm-hmm. Well, I've never met, but yes, I know.
But couldn't be a sweeter person who really ran an amazing place. And I was the last person ever hired by Joyce. So
you were the last. Wow.
The last physical person ever to be hired by Joyce.
That's wild.
And then Kelly Leonard, who came in with Andrew, and they're both amazing. Wild thing about Kelly Leonard, you know Kelly?
I don't.
But you've heard of him?
I have not.
He's kind of the executive producer of Second City.
Okay.
And he's big in the improv.
I know Dell, and I know Joyce.
Okay.
And so there's a few of them.
Yeah.
This is a little bit
But
before
he's
my
great.
time.
But the crazy thing is that he and I were on the same hockey team as kids in Wilmette. Isn't that great?
That's cool.
Yeah. So that's how long I've known
See, that's the
him.
thing. That Chicago connection.
Again, yeah.
Because a lot of people, again, Second City, a lot of people from the Midwest gravitated, just in general. But if you're from the city, sometimes obviously it helps.
Yeah, it really does.
So that's really cool.
Yeah, so I got picked up to be in the touring company. I toured for almost exactly a year. And then I got put at Second City Northwest, which is kind of the suburb one, which is like the minor leagues, if you will, before you go to the ETC or main stage, which is like the Mecca.
Sure.
And so I wrote 2 shows with an amazing cast, Keckner and a bunch of people. And I ended up getting the main stage, which was literally my goal was to meet somebody from the main stage.
Right. Just to kind of like.
Now I have to rethink my goals. But so I got the main stage. And the same 2 weeks I had the main stage, I was doing a show in at Second City at Northwest that someone by the name of Bernadette Burkett directed. Bernadette is from Chicago, was at Second City with like Betty Thomas and I think like Joe Flaherty, Brian Murray, and George Wendt. And her and George Wendt hit it off, and they got married. So George, obviously she's out here, but they flew her back to direct a show.
Wow.
And I'm in that show. And at the time out in Hollywood, they're looking for somebody to play the co-star of the George Wendt show.
This I've heard.
Yeah.
I read. So you made that.
I had auditioned a ton because they were like, no way this guy, who we don't even know. Ironically, the audition line was, hey, something fell off the Stetson. I'm kidding.
Yeah, I was going to say, please let that be the line. Redeem it.
But I auditioned and like 7 or 8 times, was flying back and forth. And Joyce was like, here's the great thing. If you don't get that show, you got the main stage.
Right. You have something.
If you get the show, then you had the main stage. So it was really cool. And so we did the show. I flew out, was flying back and forth. My wife was pregnant with our first kid.
Wow.
And George and I did the show with Brian Murray, another Chicago guy.
Yep.
And it was good. It just didn't get picked up. And I think we did 8 or 10 of them. And that was it. And then I went back, got picked up from Murphy Brown, went back and forth, and then decided to move out.
Wow.
After I did that, I figured it was either New York or Chicago. I went out with Keckner and Colbert and Carell and those guys for SNL. For that, they needed like 6 people. It was the one Will guy.
So you auditioned for it?
I did. Yeah, it was like getting a tryout for the Bears.
Sure.
Kind of a
walk-on situation.
Yeah.
But nonetheless,
right, exactly.
You got to do that. If somebody said you could have a chance. No, you go. You go to that.
No, so it was flattering and great. The audition was horrible. It was ridiculous.
Well, why?
You need 5 to 7 minutes, and it's impressions, a political impression, a celebrity, and I just don't really do either.
I don't know.
I
You
just-
did that Chris Farley
I can do
fairly
that.
well.
I ended up doing Clinton, and I've never done it before, and Ted Koppel, and then my celebrity impression. And I'll just say this to you because it's Chicago. Do you remember? Have you ever heard of Chet Kopic? Oh, Chet
It's a little bit
Kopic
before
was-
my time, probably.
for sure. He was ahead of my time a little bit, but he went to do Trier, tall guy, and he was like the Chicago voice of sports for a long time.
Huh.
And he was extremely kind of like a Harry Carey,
Okay.
where he was just a show.
Is it in the 80s, 70s? When is this?
Yeah, it's probably 80s,
Okay.
90s a little bit maybe.
Okay.
But he would have in his show, he would have like a Tiffany old style lamp and like a little table.
Okay.
He'd have like Michael Jordan.
Okay, yeah.
And this is his cadence. He would be like,
Maybe that's
all right,
what I
welcome back to the show. Got a special guest here with us today. The kid works the round ball, the circular Zeppelin, like I've never seen. He does the 94-foot hustle like he's made for it, like he was born to step onto the court. And it's
There's like phrases that
it's ridiculous. It's beautiful how he does it.
it's like poetic almost.
Yes, and that was my impression.
And they still were like,
It was awful. It was more like Ted. The only thing I could really do was that, and it's an obscure Chicago.
Isn't that in a
reference.
way? I mean, I get it. I mean, SNL, they live off of the politics and all that,
Sure.
and all these things with celebrity impressions. But man, they didn't just say, "Hey, this guy's funny. Let's just play with it." No.
Yeah, it's hard, man.
Of course
they
it's
put you in you're in your dressing room for 4 hours, over 4 hours. They'll give you water, and that's it. And
Was it hazing?
now they kind of want to see if you're going to snap because you're
Wow.
going to be live on TV. It's like the only litmus test that they can really do.
Huh.
I don't know if it's the same, but
Interesting.
yeah. So after I didn't get that, then I knew I went back to Chicago, and I was like, more things are opening up for me out in LA. So I had to move, or felt we should move. My wife's from downstate Illinois, and she lived like in Lincoln Park, and I lived in Old Town.
Okay.
We just kind of felt like it was the right move. And again, maybe we were just because we were so young. But
Yeah. Walk me. When did you get married?
1990.
No. Well, how old are you?
Oh, 24.
So you're 20.
25.
So young.
Yeah.
My question is, when you were obviously when you decide to move,
Yeah.
there's a discussion. For myself, my wife knew it pretty. Like when we first met, she's like, "You're gonna have to move to LA." I was like, "Yeah, I probably will."
Yeah.
Did your family? Did your wife know? Like, hey, like this is where you have to go.
I think my parents didn't really, and being an actor, I think sometimes it's almost like when your kid's the goalie in soccer. It's like everyone's kind of like, oh gosh, she's the goalie. Oh jeez, because you just, you don't want to be like, oh, I saw Mark's show the other day. What's up with that? Like, you're
Man, you really went to that show, didn't you?
Yeah. But so in the beginning, I think my parents were cautiously optimistic, and then there was
They
stuff
want to be
like,
supportive,
of
but
course, but it's an incredibly cutthroat business that most people are told no and certainly don't make it. Certainly from St. Joe's kind of a thing. Although I guess Bill Murray did. There were times where it was like, so you're done with all the make 'em up stuff,
Yeah.
and I think my mom very much supported it, but didn't know where it would go.
Mm-hmm.
And I was still working on my own and supporting myself. So it wasn't like I was like, hey, I need money, because they're like,
you were doing insurance. What were you doing? You were
so
selling.
group health insurance to factories for a year. Then I worked at the Walnut Room
Where's that?
in Marshall Fields.
Oh,
like a
not
famous old-
the Macy's Marshall Fields, like
Yeah,
the one
yeah.
downtown.
Right. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. So I worked down there.
Cool.
And then I worked at Red Kerr. I had a sports bar. And
Is that still around?
Red Kerr was the first coach of the Bulls.
Oh, like Red Kerr, like
Kerr,
the guy.
Yeah, Johnny
Wow.
Red Kerr. So he had a
Well,
sports bar.
I know him. I don't know. I know him as the announcer.
Right. Yeah. Yes, of course.
That's what I grew up on.
Yeah. So he would. That was his restaurant. It was like a sports bar.
I didn't know he had one.
Yeah. It was kind of good. It was a good burger.
Where was this?
It was kind of by the Union Station, kind of like Adams and something kind of.
Huh.
Now
West
it's really
Loop
hip.
area or whatever
Yeah,
it is?
exactly. Kind of like I don't say River North, but it's now it's really hip. There's the
Yeah, yeah.
Gibsons is there.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
So it's like the
Dude,
place
that's
to
really
be.
cool.
Yeah, it was great. So I did that, and then I picked up a job. I worked for Old Style on a keg truck. So I was on a keg truck, so I was back in the trucks, and then it went so well they moved me into sales. So I was selling Old Style as a salesman. It's the only job I didn't want to quit.
Really?
Yeah, it was great people, great job, free beer.
Yeah, everyone's happy about the beer part of it.
It really was. It was. I didn't go to one party with. I just walked in with 2 cases to every party.
See, isn't that funny? The guy who could hook up the beer in high school. Now you were that guy.
Ironically, I've become keg beer.
You
Yes.
did. How many
Tables
people?
have turned.
How many people befriended you when they realized that they they liked your wife, but they realized you were married to her, so it was like, well, we go to the beer guy.
Yeah, I like the
So
beer
it
guy.
goes straight reversal.
He's good. Yeah.
So that's so crazy.
Yeah.
So you did that. You said you moved when you were officially 29, or you were younger.
No, we. So my wife and I, we got married in '90. We got a place, Halstead and Armitage.
Okay.
And then lived there, and then bought a place at like Claiborne and Fullerton, like a
Yeah,
condo.
dude, we all lived in. I did the same thing.
Yeah.
I lived in Fullerton,
Totally.
Sheffield, and then Belmont, and
Yeah.
all that stuff.
It's one of those things. I'm sure we all crossed
yeah,
each other
somewhere
over
in
some
there.
party the same. Oh, sorry. Oh, hi, Mark. How are you?
Can I?
Yeah,
Okay.
But
No.
then we lived in a condo we bought there. My wife worked for a pharmaceutical company, and then when we had our first baby, it was right when I was doing the George Wendt show, so it was like 94, 95. She was
But it
born
was
in 95.
but it was here.
Yeah, in Chicago.
So then, how did that work? Was George Wendt? It was filmed in Hollywood, no, in LA.
Yeah.
So you were flying back and forth when the baby was young.
Yeah, so I was flying back and forth, and then when my wife hit like 8 months, she probably stopped. We would travel we did press for it and went to New York and different things, and so I was out here living in at first I stayed at Ian Gomez and Nia Vardalos from Chicago. I
That's
stayed
cool.
on their couch. Yeah, which was great. I didn't know anybody besides Joel and those guys. And then I stayed in the Oakwood, which is like the place. It's a furnished kind of by Warner Brothers.
Sure.
So I stayed there, and then I was doing the show, and I had an open-ended ticket from Disney to fly back whenever.
That's cool.
Yeah, for the baby.
There's no way they do that now.
Probably not. But the other thing was. Then I'm like, oh, this is great. And I'm like, we have a kid on the way, so we just kind of take a break on that. Like, totally take a break. Everyone just, I'm like, that's awesome. I'm out telling my wife, I'm like, this is so cool. Hollywood's so awesome. They're going to give me a break. All of a sudden you're going to go into labor. I'm going to say, hey, everybody, it's taking 5 days. And so all of a sudden it was kind of close. And I was talking to one of the exec producers. I'm like, hey, I'm just trying to revisit that thing. How does that work if my wife goes into labor? Then we just split and stop the show. And he's like, no, we don't do that.
They
All
did
these
that
people.
to bring you in.
Yeah. And I was like, wait a minute. And he goes, look, it's kind of like if you went to war and you can't leave combat to go, I go, there's no war. This isn't a war. This is
I have a
situation.
child. That is a war.
Yes. But it turned out on the week of hiatus, she went into labor. So I flew back on like a midnight flight, got right to the hospital, and we had a baby. So
Wow.
yeah, it was very cool.
Congratulations on
very
that.
lucky. Yeah, it was
So
really
that
cool.
was
So
the
our
first.
oldest Cassidy was born in Chicago. And then our next daughter, a couple years later, was Caitlin, who was born at St. Joe's. And then Ryan, our youngest, also was. But all
What year St. Joe? Because St. Joe's out
out here.
Out here.
Providence, St.
because
Joe's.
there's a St. Joe's in Chicago.
Oh, of course.
My dad
yeah.
used to work there.
Oh my gosh, my friend Paula Cifelli works there.
That's
She's in there.
interesting. My dad was an ultrasound technician.
Oh, nice. Oh, that's really cool. She's in. She's up
W-
when the babies come out, and
I wouldn't be surprised if they
They
crossed
might.
paths
I'll ask
at
her.
some
That's
point.
funny.
We'll talk about it after the
but
show.
no, the crazy thing, not crazy, but we had them all baptized because the water's better.
No, is that really?
No, well, no,
But that was literally the thought
no,
behind
it's a
it.
gag. But
I was gonna say-
they're literally all. Well, because Cassidy was born.
You know, there's somebody who thought that way. I'm telling you, there's somebody who's
sure.
just like,
Got
well,
California
but-
water.
It's
Part-
not organic.
part of
We got to go
heaven you
back
going
there.
to. Yeah, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
The pearly gates.
Yeah,
the
you,
wand.
you want her to be as fresh and as clean as she can when she gets into this thing.
Right.
That's so funny. So
Yeah.
you went back for family,
So
probably.
our oldest daughter was baptized at St. Joseph's, and then the other daughter was also. And then the cool thing was our youngest, Ryan, George Wendt was doing a play in Chicago, and like it kept getting extended. So my mom's like, you should probably get Ryan baptized. It's almost been 6 months. I'm like, Mom, if something happens, he doesn't get to heaven, we're back in the wrong guy. All right, I'm just saying. So we ended up going, let's just do it back in Chicago. So, and the cool thing was we did it at the parish I grew up in, St. Joe's.
That's cool.
So my mom's like, oh, the pastor gave me a key. I'm like, I have the key to God's house.
Right? Yeah, exactly. How come we didn't listen the first 3 times?
Thank
Sorry.
you. Yeah.
Now,
What about Fairfield?
now I'm just breaking in.
Yeah. So it was very cool. Our friend Wayne
Key
Watts.
to God's house.
So,
It's a good line.
no, it's
That's
It's
cool.
true.
Though.
So Wayne Watts, a friend of ours from Marquette, became a priest and married us. And ironically, now he's the pastor at St. Joe's.
Oh wow,
Which is
still
crazy.
cool.
Yeah, small world. But yeah, we had George went and his wife Bernadette are the godparents.
That's really
Yeah, keeping it very Chicago. So
very cool. So you still keep in touch with? I think George lives in the
he
valley.
does. He lives in Studio City.
Yeah,
He's
it's
a
not too
great
far. That's what I've heard.
He and his wife and kids, they're just an amazing. And that was, I will say that, you know, I went back for a rugby reunion at Marquette, and so many of the guys were like, "Yeah, but is it kind of weird out there?" And I'm like, "It's kind of like high school. You can find weird."
You find who you want to find.
Exactly, and I think if you find people that are like-minded and care and they're concerned, families as well, like the parish, we're at a place called St. Francis de Sales here in Sherman Oaks. It's identical to the parish I grew up.
That's
it's
cool.
interchangeable
That's
with
cool.
with the people, and it's a great group. And George, I think George and Bernadette were the people that not taught me, but showed me that, oh, you can have great kids in a Midwest kind of Chicago life.
Right.
You know,
That's what I love about the
Okay.
valley, by the way.
I do too.
And,
Yep.
and people don't really like, you know, you can live that Hollywood, Beverly Hills life.
Sure.
Or if you're, you know, a guy who for some reason I just never got into the bar scene or club scene
Right.
or whatever, I was like, once I got married, I was like, no, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have family now
Totally.
and everything like that. And the valley is the best because again, I explain to people the Chicago grid.
Mm-hmm.
The valley is the closest thing you're gonna get to it.
I agree.
You know,
Yeah, for
and
sure.
it's just also like it's more on the restaurants and hanging out in parks.
Yes.
That's
No, it's very
that's-
family oriented and really family. It's. I mean, we could not be more happy. I mean, our kids are riding bikes up and down the street, and they can go to Bob's Big Boy, and
there you go.
and it's very Midwest. I think we know our neighbors.
Right.
It's funny because our neighbors are craft service and stuntmen and producers.
Right,
But,
of course.
but
That
it's-
is the weird thing about LA. Yeah.
It is, yeah, but he's kind of in the business. But I guess it reminds me if everybody's in the Board of Trade. Right. How like everybody
Right,
was
right.
at the Board of Trade at one time. You're like, what's
That's
going
really
on?
funny to think about. But yeah, it's not too far from basically home.
Yeah, exactly. And also I will say that, going to George's house for Blackhawk games and Bears and Cubs.
It's literally like your home.
No, we probably see more games like that together than we would in Chicago.
That's cool.
My cousin came out, Jed. He lives in Oak Park with his 3 kids, and he just came by our house for a beer. He was doing business in town or something, and we're going through the house, and we go into my son Ryan's room, and he goes, "Wow, you guys have like more Chicago sports stuff than I think our kids do, and we live there." But every time you're in town, you're saying, "Oh, we should get this poster, and here's this and that." So
It's true. I mean, look, it's funny. I have this show here
Yeah.
because I still have my heart in
it
there.
is.
Obviously, we work out here.
Yeah.
I love LA,
Yeah,
but I don't forget,
No.
and that's what's cool. I think that's really cool.
it is. No, we go back every year, 2 or 3 times a year. That's
great.
I shot a movie there, which was one of the coolest things.
Which movie was this?
It was years ago with Kathy Bates. Oh gosh,
There's a movie you did. I haven't seen it. I did some research on it because there's so many Chicago people in it. It's about idiots.
Oh, Dealing with Idiots.
Dealing with
yeah,
Idiots.
that's Garland.
But yeah, but it was
Jeff
Garland,
Garland.
you.
Sure.
There's just a ton of you.
Yeah, well, that's Jeff just going, "Oh, you play
Jeff,
the coach."
Joe Nunez was. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
There's a ton.
I think it's because that everybody can. It's funny that even working on a show called The Middle, Diane and
You play
Elaine,
Bill Norwood,
Yeah, I played Neil's neighbor.
right?
But the cool thing was that the 2 executive producers who created it, one's from Deerfield and one's from Ohio.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and what's wild is that they don't ask people beforehand, but when somebody gets cast, let's say you're the you're the car salesman,
Sure.
whatever. On the set, they're always like, "Hey, so where are you from?" And like 90% of the time, it's Midwest.
There's a ton. Well,
lot of Chicago.
the people on cruise,
Yes,
so many Chicago people.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
but it's also they're like
It's that blue collar thing. I
there
think.
is, but they're like Chicago people show up early. They work hard.
course.
They don't complain.
Of course.
It's a very. There was a compliment at our school, St. Francis de Sales. We were like one of the first people there from Chicago, and so when there's a nun that ran it, and she's like, when the kids hit 5th grade, my oldest daughter, she's like, we were on the PTO and helping out.
Sure.
She's like, there's and she helped us get in the school. This nun.
Sure.
She goes, there's no one to coach the girls. I was like, oh, you just call downtown, like see why somebody just the archdiocese shoot you up, some guy, give him a girl. Like, no, we don't do it that way. Oh, maybe put something in the bulletin. Get one of those guys. Someone to help out with the. No, I was thinking you could do it. I was like, I don't know if I can coach. I coach soccer. I don't really know basketball as well. And this whole time I'm kind of backtracking on saying no to a nun. I literally just thought of I could give blood once a week and do every great thing, but get to heaven and go, So you said no to a nun?
Yeah,
You
exactly.
said no to a nun. You just said no to her.
And you like basketball.
Yes.
Can't you teach basketball
Right.
for this woman?
Yes, but anyway, so I coached and it was
Good
great.
for you.
And, yeah, so I coached a ton of sports with the kids, and
Good for you, man.
there was they have like Jersey Day once in a while. It was always Lakers, and the Holneys and Keckners and Graces and Brian Stack. All these people slowly start coming from Chicago. Now their kids are getting older. Like, hey, can we just go to the school you guys go to? So
That's
now
cool.
it's like
So now
a
everyone's
third
together.
Bears jerseys, and this one dad. And I say this. I don't mean to be boastful, but I say it as a compliment.
Be boastful.
Well, he said, "You're so tall."
That
No,
one line in high school.
right? He said, "It was like what it was like 3 or 4 friends, Pete Holney and James Grace, and all these guys were all coaching, volunteering. We did the live auction, like a noticeable effort to make the place better and to be involved.
That's cool.
And all volunteering. And he's like, "Hey, what is it with you Chicago guys?" I'm like, "What do you mean?" And he said, "You guys are always like helping out, and volunteering.
You're like good people.
No, that was what it was. I go, "That's just what you do. People do that in Chicago." He's like, "Man, it'd be a pretty cool place to live." And I was like, "Yeah, but you could do it here."
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. Exactly. I'm helping you.
Yes,
This is.
you could.
Can't you see my example?
Yeah, exactly. So, but I thought it was like kind of a nice.
No, it's the
it was a
greatest.
compliment.
I love it when people notice, like, wow, you're like saying hello to a stranger. Like, even my kid. Like,
Yeah.
why are you saying hello to him? Like, why not?
Yeah, that's what I
I'm
do.
on the street. He's a
Yeah.
nice guy, I'm sure.
Exactly.
But maybe he's not, but whatever. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, I would too. Sure.
So funny.
Good.
So George Wendt thing comes by.
Mhm.
You start getting some roles.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, one of the most memorable for me is in Friends when you play Mr.
Sure.
Dr. Boring or whatever
Yeah.
it is, where your your character is the flashback, right? You're the flashback guy of basically what would have happened if Monica didn't, or if she remained, I guess it was like
Yeah.
overweight and she didn't change her life. You were going to be the guy. Your character was going to be the guy. Do people still stop you nowadays and like?
Yeah, it's funny. Certain things people will stop you for, which is always ridiculously fun.
You play a lot of characters, a lot of interesting
Yeah,
characters.
but they're all just kind of affable, like, hey.
Yeah, you're always the happy guy. By the way, you
Yeah.
play a dad 95%
Yeah.
of the time and
Yeah.
like a happy guy.
Yeah, it's funny. There was somebody offered me a part in a movie, an independent movie, and the guy's he's a bigot and he's mean and
As a
vile.
character.
Yeah, and it was very sweet. He's like, "Hey, maybe if you want to mix things up a little bit." I'm like, kind of like doing that. No, I do. I really. I played somebody.
You could have had an Oscar role.
No, I had
It was Joker.
Right, yeah, that was my role. I played I had Hep C as a kind of a cheating governor in House. I've done. a few dramatic-
you were a senator or something.
Yeah,
like
I was
that.
senator.
I
I
remember.
played, with Meryl Streep. I was a doctor, and so I've done stuff.
Yeah, it's
but,
complicated, right?
It's
Is that what it's called?
complicated. Yeah, exactly. But the Friends is kind of. It's funny. My daughters, who both just graduated college, it's like the big show in college. All the college kids love.
Of course.
Friends.
Well, Netflix kept
Yeah,
it.
exactly. Yeah.
I never watched Friends up until a couple of years ago. No
Okay.
joke. Because
Wow.
I mean, it was just when I saw clips of it and I was like, I can't deal with this.
Yeah.
But now, after being able to like just binge watch it, I watched everything.
No, it's great.
It
And
still
they
holds
couldn't
up.
Be Jennifer and Courtney were just like over the top. I could not be nicer. Just like, and it's hard because you're coming into an iconic show and my scene is with her. I have to make out with Courtney Cox, like, and she couldn't. I don't know. Yeah.
How does that work for a Catholic guy married with a couple kids?
My wife just laughs. She just thinks.
Well, you're not Catholic. You're not Catholic, right?
Oh yeah.
Oh, you are Catholic.
Yeah. Oh, you mean like
Because you went to a Jesuit. That's what I was asking.
Yeah. You mean like a scene where I would have to kiss somebody?
Yeah. Is she cool with that?
My wife, she literally laughs. She's like, "Oh my god, that's hilarious." I think if I did, 50 Shades, it'd be a little different. They're certainly not.
That would have been a different movie.
I would have to do some sit-ups.
The happiest guy playing.
Yes. Who's the happy lover?
Can we do this?
He's
Can we
caring.
please remake this movie?
Yes.
It'd be so much better.
But no, they were great. The cast was amazing. Same with Seinfeld. People would come up and I'll have glasses on and a hat and just be. And it's just funny how it's weird. It's usually out of town. If I'm in an airport or
Really?
in another city,
That's where it's
people
at.
come up like, "Hey," and I'm like, "Wow, how did you know?"
But they don't know your name though. That's the tough thing sometimes. And that always hurt me a little bit because like once you're out here and you start knowing everybody, it's like you know their name. Like
Yes.
it's like, of course I work with this person.
Yeah.
Blah blah blah. But like, hey, you're that guy. You're that guy.
Right.
So in Chicago, do you get that in Chicago a lot?
Yeah,
Because that's where you go back to
for sure.
most frequently.
Yeah, and people kind of. That's the one thing that's hard is that I wasn't. The middle was great because it was 9 years, but I was on 6 or 7 a season. somebody like Neil would have more of a mainstay with.
Right.
They'd be like, oh, you're the guy from the middle, kind of a thing.
Neil
So
Flynn, right?
Neil Flynn.
He's the lead, one of the lead
he is.
characters.
Great guy, dear friend from Chicago.
Yes.
But yeah, people will come up and I do feel bad sometimes when it's like, I wish I could be like, I was on Sullivan's Wish, like some show or something that they,
But no, it's just kind of interesting. It's like when you come out here as an actor, you kind of bounce around, you do so many different things, but in the end of the day, the fact that you were able to raise 3 kids,
yeah,
live a normal life, and be in some iconic shows, it's awesome.
Yeah, thanks, man. It's been crazy. It's and what's wild about it too is the commercial success was probably pretty big in Chicago because it was such a mecca for commercial.
Sure.
Literally the first commercial I got was a bottled water spot, and they called me up like, "Oh my gosh, you got the commercial!"
Can you reenact that right now? Let's do it.
I think it was one of those like a bubbler.
Oh yeah, was it?
But the crazy thing, I've told this before, but the crazy thing is that they're so excited that you got it, but they're worried about my union status. And I'm like, I'm all good in the union. And they said, no, we've got a problem. We've tried a couple times and SAG's never heard of you. And I said, I've never heard of SAG. And they're like, that's your union. I said, yeah, it's not my union. They said, but you wrote down yes. It said, are you union? You checked a box. It said yes. I said, yeah, I'm a Teamster, Local 744.
Different kind of union.
And he's like, well, we meant SAG. I'm like, all you got to do is literally say SAG. It's less letters like than are you union?
Right.
And they're like, well, everyone kind of I'm like, I don't know. And so the client liked the story so much they paid for me to get in the union. That's how I got in.
So 2 quick questions, and then I want to play something with you. We'll have some fun. As if this wasn't fun before. Tell me first, favorite role you ever did. I'm curious.
It's a great question. I think I liked It's Complicated because it was to work with Meryl Streep.
Oh my
and
God,
Alec
of course.
Baldwin and Steve Martin. So that, and for a week, it was like on the set, literally, like I'd come back from lunch and be like, Pat, what'd you get for lunch? I got the lasagna, Meryl Streep. Like it's just,
was she judging you?
No, the opposite couldn't be sweeter. It's like, oh, tell me about your daughter Cassidy, right? I love that name. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And the one thing I always say is that people always ask like, oh, who's the biggest jerk in Hollywood, or who have you worked with who wasn't?
Tell them the good
great?
stuff.
No, I don't. I said, in my mind, there's nobody better than Meryl Streep. So if she's phenomenal,
literally has won everything.
Yes, nobody has the right to be a jerk. I mean, it's hard on sets and there's a lot of pressure and stuff. But that was cool. Seinfeld was really cool because that was our favorite show at the time.
Oh, cool.
That was really cool. The Middle was great because I got to work with Neil.
That was your longest running thing, right? Was it?
Probably,
for TV stuff.
Yeah.
You were there for like 20-something episodes.
I did a bunch, yeah. I did a show called Ed for a year in New York, which was really fun. Yeah, I've been lucky. I think Seinfeld was one of the coolest ones because people seem to like that. And the director I had met earlier when I was doing Georgia's show. And so
you had a little connection rapport kind of thing?
Yeah. And
it's always nice.
It is. And his kids actually go to Loyola. Like my son is a senior at Loyola here in LA. There's just something about if you say you're from Chicago or somebody sees, even my daughter when she went to Boulder didn't know a soul. And it was like the second or third day. She's like, hey, when do I meet friends? And I was like, just be nice to people, compliment them.
That is the sweetest thing.
Yeah,
I hope my dad calls me.
Right.
So that's good.
But I said, wear a Chicago shirt or a Cubs hat, and she called me like,
isn't that so funny? That is amazing.
I know.
Just wear a Cubs hat.
Yeah.
All of a sudden,
she goes, 4 people.
Oh my
God!
God!
Like, oh, you a Cub fan? She goes, yeah. Where are you from? Chicago? She goes, oh, I was born there, but I live in LA. LA? What's up?
I feel like in LA they say, just don't wear much.
Yeah, exactly.
Walk around, you'll find somebody. You'll have a lot of guys.
Yes. So cool. No, I will say it is neat that my kids truly love Chicago, love going back.
That's awesome. Are your parents?
My folks are still there in the same house. Yeah, and we have cousins and friends from grammar school and high school and all that.
Great.
So and my sister's still there, Mickey. My brothers and sisters are all kind of all over, but we're really close, which is nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so it's good.
Hot spots. I always ask everybody. Okay. Favorite places in Chicago to go for everything: food, drink.
That's a great question. I think I used to live down the street from Twin Anchors.
Is that a bar?
Twin Anchors is a bar restaurant in Old Town.
Okay.
By St. Michael's Church.
Okay.
You know St. Michael's?
I know St. Michael's,
yeah,
but I've
right,
never been to that.
There.
Again, I'm not in the bar scene that much.
It was Sinatra's favorite restaurant.
Twin Anchors.
It was in the movie Return to Me with Bonnie Hunt.
Huh.
It's just I don't want to say dive. It's just an old school.
It's like hangout. It's a classic
place.
hangout. Okay.
Yeah. And then obviously Second City is great. Wrigley Field, I always say, is the biggest beer garden in the world. Butch McGuire's I love because I went to school with Bobby McGuire. He's the owner of it now. I think Gibson's Food's great. I think there's a Caddy Shack there, which is kind of fun.
Yeah.
Because I caddied with all the Murrays.
Oh, that's cool.
Country club.
Isn't that funny?
On the North Shore, yeah. They have a charity tournament in Florida called the Caddy Shack. So we get to do that and hang out. I mean, Brian Murray was in the first thing I ever did. First day I met Brian, we were in an audition in Hollywood at Bradford Studios. And I'd never met him before. Our moms used to go to church together. And there's 9 Murrays. One of them's a nun who taught my little sister, which is awesome. And so I'm like, I might not get this audition past this round.
Sure.
I might never be out here again.
Sure.
I might never see Brian Murray again. So I have to go say hi to him. I gotta say hi. And he's studying his lines, and I just go, "Hey Brian, Pat Finn, mom's at St. Joe's. We're from St. Joe's Parish." And he literally just goes and gets up and walks away. And I was like, "Oh no!" Again, not much acting experience, so I'm like, maybe you don't talk to people in that room. Maybe you don't say anything. He comes back like 40 seconds later, and I'm just literally like, "Oh my god, what did I do?" And he comes back and he goes, "Sorry, I had to spit. What's going to St. Joe's? That's great." And I was like,
dude, that is like dead on. That was perfect. What do you mean you don't do impressions? Jesus Christ.
Oh, there we go. Call Lauren.
Yeah.
But we've become, couldn't be better friends. I mean, I've golfed with him. His wife, Tina, is our vet.
That's really interesting.
No, he's a great guy. And like I said, Joel and his wife and kids are, Joel's wife is from Wilmette also.
All right, we're going to do this. This is going to be a fun thing. And this is very much inspired because of Bill Norwood.
Oh, nice. Okay.
We're going to be talking about Chicago's famous Bills.
Oh, nice. All right.
You ready for this?
Okay, yeah.
It's a little trivia.
Okay.
If you get anything wrong, I don't care.
Okay.
It's all good.
You still get paid.
Yeah, exactly. Congratulations, you got a free water.
Nice.
This bill is known for randomly appearing at random gatherings and parties and partaking in them.
Bill Murray.
Correct.
Yeah.
Very well done. This bill had the most iconic 15-foot jumper.
Bill Cartwright.
Oh, that was good. That could be a good answer. I'll give you credit for it.
Okay.
What's the other Bill? It's a little after Bill Cartwright.
Second
wave of Bulls championship.
Oh, shoot.
He's an announcer now.
How am I blanking on this? Shoot.
Starts with W as the last name. Bill Wennington.
Oh my gosh, Bill Wennington.
That's all I remember.
Yeah,
that little.
Yeah. Yeah. God, Bill Wennington. That's so funny.
This Bill played alongside DiCaprio as the Titanic sank. He is from Chicago. I did not know this.
Oh, is
later.
it? Yeah, Bill.
I'll give you a Billy.
Yeah, Billy. He's from Evanston, I think.
He's from the Burbs, I'm pretty sure.
Shoot. Billy Crudup?
Billy Zane.
Billy Zane. That's right.
It's so crazy. I didn't know he was from Chicago.
No, I remember that. Yeah, I forgot he was. Okay. I thought he went to Evanston High.
This is really more of an educational thing.
It is, yeah. I'm winning?
Yeah. This Bill plays an alcoholic character with 6 children on the south side of Chicago.
Bill Macy.
William H. Macy. Well done.
All
Very
right.
good. That was very good. So I thought I was going to throw you for a curveball there.
Okay.
You did a good job. This Bill is a bald rock singer and Cub fan.
Billy Corgan.
Very good.
Yeah.
Look at this. Thank you so much for coming on
This is great.
Anything else you want people to find you, things you got coming up?
Yeah, I have 2 independent movies coming up.
Are you just acting in them?
Yeah.
Very cool.
And then, Improbability is the name of the company that I also do. So it's improbability.com. Or it's actually improv-ability.com. But check it out if you want. It's pretty cool.
Very cool. Any social media? Do you want anybody to follow you?
Sure. That Pat Finn on Twitter and Mr. Pat Finn on Instagram.
Very
so
cool.
Check that out. Yeah.
Thanks so much, dude.
Awesome.
It was awesome. Thanks so much for coming
it's
by.
great. Of course.
Have a good one, guys. Check
Yep.
it out.
Go
Talk to you later.
Bears.
Go Bears. Bears.